Joining us now from Philadelphia, NBC News White House correspondent Mike Memoli. Also with us, Boston Globe columnist Kimberly Atkins-Stohr and New York Times reporter Jeremy Peters. So, Mike, let's talk about the black vote in Pennsylvania. Interestingly, the black vote in Philadelphia and other parts of the state were actually down from 4 years previously for Joe Biden. But he picked up more support in other parts of the state that Donald Trump had enjoyed in 2016 and did not in 2020. So they really have to, all things being equal, knowing that Donald Trump has a lot of support in Western PA and other parts of the state, they've got to do something to turn out that black vote in Philadelphia, where they've got a big city machine, Democratic machine.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, Andrea. And wouldn't you know it, they brought out the drum line just in time for our conversation. So I hope you can hear me. But this is all part of the Biden campaign trying to put on a real show of force as they're courting a critical constituency in a critical battleground state and a critical part of that state. You mentioned what we saw in the exit polls 4 years ago. President Biden won 87% of the black vote nationally, a significant percentage here in Philadelphia as well. But the most recent NBC poll shows that only 71% of black voters support the president in a head-to-head ballot test against Donald Trump. And it's not just the level of support, it's the level of enthusiasm that the Biden team is concerned about. So that's why you're seeing a rarity, the president and the vice president campaigning together, along with Maryland Governor Wes Moore, a rising star in the party. He's just the third black man ever elected governor in U.S. history. He's expected to be a major surrogate for the fall. They're launching Black Voters for Biden-Harris as part of what the campaign says is a different strategy than what Democrats have done in the past. They know they have to not just turn out black voters in the fall, they have to persuade them to support the president from start to finish. And so what we're seeing here today is not just about that critical election effort, but it's also part of what we would call maybe the Wednesday strategy on the part of the Biden team during this Trump trial. They have taken advantage of those gaps in the proceedings when they know they will get a little bit more media attention. We saw that with the announcement of the debates, that big event in Wisconsin focused on manufacturing, and here today in Philadelphia as well.
And Kimberly, the polling showing black voters are frustrated about a lot of things, the cost of living, even though inflation is better overall, that they are very sensitive to that, at the lack of progress on police and criminal justice reform, nothing accomplished since, you know, the George Floyd, you know, horror and killing and all those protests. And how does the president tackle that head on, as well as the general apathy about the election, both sides?
Well, I think he has to do exactly what he is doing, which is talking to them directly about what is at stake. Look, I continue to believe we are too far out ahead for polls to be a decisive measure of anything just yet. But I do understand that in 2020, those poll numbers were at a time that it was a primary race on the Democratic side. And it wasn't until South Carolina and afterwards when black voters were very clear about the threat that Donald Trump presented, not only to their lives, but to the economy and to the nation's very democracy. And they came out in droves and decisively helped Joe Biden win in 2020. I don't believe that suddenly all of those same voters got amnesia over the last 4 years and no longer understand the threat that Trump presents. Certainly not now that we have seen, as you pointed out, a lot of coverage of this trial in New York, which really brings it to bear. But that doesn't mean that the Biden campaign can take black voters for granted either. They have to talk about the student loan forgiveness that has helped a lot of people and what was a big ask among black voters in 2020. They have to talk about the rise in wages and other things that it is hard to get through the Trump-dominated headlines.
And Jeremy, the Biden campaign has really been frustrated by all the focus on the trial. That they've done a lot of campaign events, small events. This one is one of the unusual ones. It's a rally, a larger event with the vice president, and and with Wes Moore, the popular governor from Maryland. But yesterday, they had a staged event across from the courthouse, not related to the trial, but choosing to be there, according to Robert De Niro, obviously the star. Actor, producer, director, De Niro, saying that he did that because the media were all there. And they also had 2 January 6th officers, Harry Dunn, Michael Fanone outside the trial yesterday, trying to break through the noise. Did that work? Did it get them any attention?
Yeah, I think one of the interesting things, Andrea, about campaigning with the police officers who were there at the Capitol on January 6th is, it's a way to remind voters of the threat that Trump poses to stability and national order, and the Biden campaign would say to the very foundations of American democracy. It's also interesting because law enforcement is traditionally the constituency of Republicans. Republicans, the party that likes to frame itself as the party of law and order. Democrats have always had a problem with crime and making it appear as if they are taking crime seriously. Biden is no different. And by appearing with law enforcement, what that does is that signals to voters that, Biden is looking at crime and taking it seriously. And while Republicans have been, pretty disingenuous about crime and exaggerating how serious it is, people do feel like crime has gone up. And that's a problem that I think Democrats have taken too long to address, but Biden seems to be confronting that head on now.
Well, it certainly has become a major issue now, especially whether crime is up or not. And like New York City, it's not up. In other cities, it's not up, but it's perceived to be up. And certainly the Republicans have taken great advantage of that, of amplifying it. Jeremy Peters, Kimberly Atkins Storer, and my friend Mike Melmily in Philadelphia at the campaign event. Thank you.